Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis Show. We're a father-son business podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems, like getting more subscribers on YouTube. That's a problem. And you know how you do that? You know how you help us out with that? Because, Camden and I have talked about this in previous shows one time about asking for help, taking compliments and stuff like that. So we're asking for help right here, right now. So go to YouTube, type in the Cam and Otis Show. It's not that hard. When it comes up, hit subscribe. It's a little button. And then when you watch this first episode, whether it's this one or one of the other 300 or so that we have, click the like button. And while you're at it, go back and watch all the other shows we've done and click the like button on all those. And then that share button, send it off to a friend. They'd appreciate that. I know because they told me. Camden, how many videos do you get from friends?
How many videos do I get from friends? Oh my gosh, a lot. I could say that. I mean, we're talking clips. I mean, constant flow on Instagram from clips. Longer videos, that's mostly our buddy Norman sending me those, good in-depth dives into some problem in the world that we need to go solve type thing, Norman. But oh yeah, I get out there over 300 hours of content. We're almost at 300 episodes, but we got some that are over an hour. So balance it out. I think we're at 300 hours of content, especially if you add in all the shorts I make on there too. So go subscribe so you get those. And I'll tell them a little secret too, Dad. We haven't told this yet. If you subscribe to YouTube, you get the episodes early, only on YouTube. They come out at 4 p.m. the day before on YouTube. So if you're subscribed, you'll get that notification. You can watch it early. And then when all your friends are listening on their podcast apps the next day, you already know all the stuff. So you can sound really smart.
And you know what? I'm getting bated breath just thinking about that. Sorry. That's for folks, y'all don't understand, waiting with bated breath. So I'm getting bated breath. Okay.
I gotta be honest, Dad. I'm gonna need a definition. I don't know that phrase.
I don't know.
I've heard it. I don't know it though.
I don't know what bated breath means, but I do know that it means I'm anxious. I'm anxious. I can't wait. Can't wait. Which,
yes, sir.
Which, when you start thinking about waiting, we've been waiting a while, and you've been working on it, and now it's fully live, and that's our your coaching program that you're leading, which is pretty awesome, called Next is Best. So tell us about Next is Best.
Yeah, so this is the relaunch of the program. I had my first generation out at the beginning of the year, got a few people through it, learned a lot, of course, from those first few people going through the program. And so what it is, Next is Best, is a coaching program designed to help college athletes transition into that next chapter of life and make it the best one yet, to get the cheesy line out of the way first. Because I got to have the cheesy lines, But what it really is, it's all about, that loss of identity that comes from leaving a career that you've had for so long. We've talked about this a bunch with military transition. Athletes go through a very similar thing where, you dedicated your whole life to this sport, whether you thought you were going to go pro or not, you still spent your whole life with that sport. And when you leave that part of your life behind, it's difficult. There's really no way around it. It's going to be difficult because you lose that identity. And so Next is Best is all about just giving you the tools you need to build that solid foundation so that you can move forward and really just conquer the real world and, go make that impact that you want to have without dealing with that loss of identity.
That's a great point. And there, I think it's just so assumed that you just figure it out. And yeah, you can, right? I mean, you do. But the question is, when do you want to figure it out? Do you want to figure it out all by yourself? Do you want to figure it out still partying like you're a freshman in college and you're finally away from mom and dad? Or do you want to take charge of your life and start to do something with your life? I mean, that's what it's really about. How do you get that fulfillment and satisfaction? How do you take what you had when you were playing that sport, whatever that sport might have been, and fill that space? And I'd love for you to walk through a bit of your story in that, Camden, and how you've come to terms and figured out how to use that same drive and passion to do what you're doing now at Tribe and Purpose.
Yeah, I think the really interesting thing, just like you said, do you want to figure out the hard way and just push it through all by yourself? Well, that's what I did. I had some support structure around me, but that's really what I did, and that's why I love the analogy of the building the foundation for the rest of your life. Because that's exactly what I didn't do. I had my back injury. I couldn't play rugby anymore. As far as I was concerned, I was going to be pro. I was going to be playing rugby till I was, 55 or however old Richie McCaw was when he retired, whatever that was, right?
112, I think.
Something like that. Oh my gosh! But I had this idea of where my life was going. I was studying agricultural business. I wanted to be a farmer, but full disclosure, that was my retirement job after I was playing pro rugby. That wasn't an actual job. That was just what I was going to do to fill my time once I was done with rugby. And so when I had the back injury, there was this huge gap in my life. And like a lot of people who, lose that, I turned to partying, I was in college, that's the type of things that people have as far as outlets, And then once I got rid of that unhealthy attachment, I guess if you could call it an attachment, I replaced it with something else, which was entrepreneurship. And I think to a lot of people, that sounds like the path forward. I'm not a rugby player anymore. I'll go be an entrepreneur. I'm not a football player. I'll go be a salesman. Whatever it is, I'll go be a teacher. Whatever it is, they pour themselves into this new identity. And the problem that I ran into with that is then your identity is hinging on your success in that other field. And so my first three business ventures failed. For various reasons. We've talked about them on the show before. Go listen to all those 300 episodes and you'll find the various clips where we talk about that. But those failed. So then that new identity I had as an entrepreneur was gone, or was not gone, but I was a bad entrepreneur, which is how much worse is that? If your identity is something and then your identity becomes bad at that something, that's even worse. And so what happened was I would keep going through and pushing through, trying to strive to make that entrepreneurship my identity, strive to make those things work. If I just had one successful business, then I would feel like I'm a real entrepreneur and that would all be better. And, years down the line, I realized that it's not about replacing the identity with something else. It's about identifying, this is cheesy, but as yourself, identifying with your purpose. And once I came to that realization, it really changed the way I look at things. When you identify with your purpose, you can't have that negative image of yourself anymore because you're always working towards that purpose. You drive, or you get that confidence from the fact that you are driving towards that purpose, making progress every single day. And so for me, like you said, I was doing it the hard way. I was fortunate enough to have a great support group around me. And, that's why I want to give this back to other college athletes, because it doesn't have to be that hard. You can go through, take this 3-month course and build that solid foundation so you can move forward instead of constantly falling backwards when you start to hit those roadblocks.
Yeah, I mean, why do we? I mean, because you went through it, and I went through some same iterations in my transition out of the military. But I find it interesting that high performers, the ones I know, tend to think they got to do it on their own. And the irony is, a high performer can never be successful without their teammates. Whether, I look back to my military career and the teammates I had there when you were playing rugby, and even when I was playing football, in the leather helmet days, I still had teammates. And then when you step away, you make this identity change, like you said, whether by choice, like I did when it was time to retire from the Army, or like a lot of other guys very similar to you through an injury, guys, whether it's sports or the military, there's a lot of people that you can't do it anymore because of some injury that just happened. And you step away and you feel like, okay, well, I just need to be tough and suck it up and figure this out. When in reality, no matter how crappy a position I was in, there was always people I could rely on. I mean, I can think of one or two very, very small things, a test or some sort of event where I was doing individual effort. But everything else, there was always people around that I could ask, hey, how do I do this? How do you do that? And that's one of the things I think is really interesting. And how does Next is Best help the participants start to come to that realization? Because it's not just onesies and twosies all around the world that are taking it or going through Next is Best to find out what's next. This episode of the Cam and Otis Show is brought to you by Tribe and Purpose.
Are you tired of dealing with the cost of bad leadership? It's time to make a change.
The Green Beret Leadership Program is your key to unlocking the full potential of your team.
By using GBLP to develop leaders in your business, you'll get a proactive and responsible team that embraces challenges, takes calculated risks, and takes action without constant supervision.
Developing great leaders can take a lot of time and energy, and that's why businesses tend to opt for the trial by fire and the school of hard knocks path to leadership. The truth is that wastes time and money. And folks, there's never enough of either one of those, and puts lots of extra stress on your leadership team.
Oh yeah, and that stress has lots of bad outcomes for your team. Poor leadership drives away your quality talent, and the longer you wait to fix the problem, the more talent you're going to lose and the more money you're going to lose.
With the Green Beret Leadership Program, you can use battle-tested leadership principles of the Green Berets to develop great leaders in your team faster than with the School of Hard Knocks. You'll see changes in just a few short weeks.
And the longer you wait to take action, the more damage poor leadership can do and will do to your business.
Learn more about the impact of GBLP, that's the Green Beret Leadership Program, can have on your business, and schedule your free coaching call with the Green Beret coach. That's me, folks, Otis. Now at findyourpurpose.coach/GBLP. I'll say it again, findyourpurpose.coach/GBLP, or you can click the link in the description below.
Yeah, I think it's something we've talked about a bunch on the show with, a variety of different guests, but it's really that when you start to pursue your purpose, when you start working towards that, you find people around you who are working in that same way. I mean, this is, I'm thinking probably 5 or 10 at least out of the 300 episodes, either mine or your What Did I Learn when we finished up, was there are other people out there doing the good work, trying to push for this. And that's really what it comes back to. When you understand your purpose, you naturally find other people who are working towards their purpose and working towards, maybe their purpose aligns with yours. And then I think the other piece, tribe and purpose, the other piece is always the tribe. And it's building that tribe around yourself to support you along the way while you're going through that journey to success. Because the fact is, you always have a team with you. If you look at any high performers, just like you said, like even I always love the example of UFC fighters or like boxers, because it is completely solo, but not at all. Like it is just one person in there, but everything building up to that is a team. And it's always that team and that team environment. That's the reason that those people get to be so successful, is because they're in a team that's pushing them. And that's what we help you build with Next is Best, is that tribe around you to help to push you moving forward towards your purpose. And what it really comes down to is that, not the social multiplier effect, but the effect that the people around you are going to have on you. When you're around other people who are pushing towards those big goals, it starts to make your goals seem a lot more realistic. When we're all pushing to go start, just using an arbitrary example, but if we're all pushing to go start this $1 million business, $1 billion business, cure cancer, cure all these different diseases, and we're all working on those things, all of a sudden my project seems real. When you're around people who can't see that, can't see purpose, don't understand their purpose, and are pessimistic and, just looking at the floor instead of looking at what's in front of them, you're not going to find yourself moving forward as well, because they're going to be pulling you back. Not intentionally, but just because they aren't looking at the big picture, then, they're going to help you to not look at that big picture. Right? It's just like, we talked about in college. How many times in college, for you or for me, we don't want to go too far down the story rabbit hole on this one, but how often do you have somebody who is working towards their career and it's like, come on, man, just come out Friday. Come on. Shout out to one of my best friends, Amir Faraji, in dental school now. biggest nerd ever. I'd always bust his balls about that in college, right? He's always studying, always studying. It's like, come on, man, you studied enough. We can go out. But it's like, that is the person, I was the person there who didn't see the big picture. He saw his big picture. He saw his purpose. He saw what he wanted to work towards. I didn't see it. And so it would infringe upon that. And so I think that's why it's so important to build that tribe around you, because you just can't do it all on your own.
Yeah. And, you reminded me of something. I heard it on a podcast the other day, and I still, it sticks with me, and I can't remember exactly which show it was I was listening to. I think it was Tim Ferriss, and the guy who was on was Steve something. And but the thing that stuck with me in that case was he was talking about doing your best and how we'll do it. You can talk about it in a match, a rugby game or something else, and say, I did my best. I can get up on the stage and do my best. But in that moment, you did your best with what you had prepared. The question you should be asking yourself is, did I do my best before I got to that period of time? And I think that's something that we should all start to look at more also, because you think about in the sports world, if you're playing a match on Saturday or a game on Saturday or whatever it is, you don't just show up and give your best, because you're not gonna succeed. Yes, you can give your best in that 80 minutes on the rugby pitch or 60 minutes on the football field or basketball court or whatever it is, right? You can give your best in that time period, but your best will never be good enough if you don't do your best in the preparation. And I think that's one of the things that Next is Best will help people in that sense, because now, you're giving your best at work, you're giving your best at life, but what's the things that you can do before that to make your best, to raise what your best is to the next level? Because if you do nothing, you graduate, you get a job, you play the resume game, the interview game, you finally get that job and you're super happy about it. And now you're just going to do your best. Well, your best is here because you don't have clarity in what your purpose is, who you are, and where you're going in life. But somebody that goes through Next is Best, their best is going to be up here. They're going to be higher level performers. They're going to feel better about what they do, how they do it, and who they do it with. And that's the powerful thing about this. It's not just, let me show up at my 9-to-5 job and do my best in my 9-to-5 job. It goes right back to it ain't no different than showing up for a test or a game without preparation.
Oh yeah, I keep thinking of, if you and I were maybe we come to Tucson, we could act this one out. Maybe we'll do a little video series behind the scenes and show this. But if you and I went to a painting class and you and I both did our best, would those be good paintings? Hell no. They'd be terrible because neither of us are very artistically gifted, right? Our creativity is in other types of things. And, that's really what it is. But if you prepare for that, if you practice, then you can get that. It makes me think of conversation we had a couple weeks ago. We did our Rugby World Cup episode talking about being game fit. John, you're not fit. You'd always say, you're not fit. You're not fit. There's no such thing as game fit, because game fit is just your best. Game fit always raises as you get better. Just like your best raises as you get better. The better you get at whatever it is, your job, being mindful, meditation, any aspect of your life that you are looking to get better at to contribute to your purpose. As you get better, your best keeps getting better. And I think that's the really important thing. It's kind of funny talking about this makes me think of, it's like when you're doing a workout and it's like, okay, hey, do push-ups until failure. Well, define failure. Because, I hit 9, I get tired, and so is 9 failure for me? It's like, okay, well then I finished the workout, it said till failure. No, you got to push past that. You have to challenge what that idea is of your best. I paraphrase this quote probably every other episode on the show, but Marcus Aurelius talking about how self-deception is like one of the most dangerous things that you can do, because you're tricking yourself. I can say I did my best, And that's like, okay, well, good. I did my best today. Therefore, I can be happy with this. But the real question then should be, what could I have done to become better, to elevate my best to that next level? Because if you don't start thinking that way, you're not going to get any better. You're going to stay at that same level. And I think a big piece of that, you mentioned already, is understanding your purpose, having an idea of what it is. You know, one of the great exercises that I got from you with your coaching with veterans is the ideal day. And just having that understanding of what it is you're working towards, what that ideal day looks like, what you want to be doing in your life. Because if you don't work towards those things, then you're not going to have that ability when you reach that point. You know, take the painting example I just said. If one of my goals in my ideal day was to spend 30 minutes after work painting, well, then I need to start practicing painting. You know, that's something that's important to me. I want to work towards. Well, then I need to start practicing it now. Am I going to spend 30 minutes every single day now? No, but I could take a class. I could do this. You could start working towards those things. When you have the broader, you know, harder goals rather than 30 minutes of painting, which is a pretty simple goal. But, you know, talking about spirituality or anything like that. And, you know, not necessarily some broad enlightenment thing, but just becoming a better person, understanding your life, understanding your world, all those kinds of things on like a philosophical sense. Well, that takes reading. And if you want to reach that point, you got to start reading now and start working on those things now. If you want to become a great businessman, you got to start reading some books. You got to start starting some businesses so they can fail, so you can learn all those lessons. You got to do these things as you're moving forward. Because I think when you talk about the ideal day, the problem that a lot of people run into, and I'm sure you saw this a lot of your vets, is if you don't have that image, or even if you do have the image and you don't work towards it, then it's like you're just like flipping a switch all of a sudden when you reach that point. You know, because I guess we're talking about painting today. I'm thinking of George W. Bush after when he got out of the office and he just painting and all the painting. Like if that was his life goal, I highly doubt that as soon as he got out of office, he was just like, all right, I'm going to paint. Like, I'm just going to get into painting. Now it's like, no, that was something that he was working on his whole life, I'm sure. Honing those arts so that reach the point so he can do all the beautiful paintings he does now.
Yeah. Well, you know, and sorry to shift gears a little bit on this, but I can't get it out of my head. And you were talking about the people around you. And I think that's such an important piece of life. And I believe it's Marshall Goldsmith that said it, but somebody said it. I'll give Marshall credit, you know, that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that's your tribe. And we start to think about that. You know, we go back to that, you're not alone, there's people around you. If you think about the situation that you're in, you know, you're at a university XYZ and you get your business degree, engineering degree, whatever it is. And while you're at the university, what do you got? You probably got some sort of, you know, since we're talking about athletes, you got your sports team. You probably got a handful of roommates or something like that in the team that you hang out with, maybe 1 or 2 that are outside the team. The majority of them are probably in the team. You graduate, that part of your life is over. Are you going to stay in contact with those folks? Yeah. You'll stay in contact, you know, Facebook, Messenger, come together, you know, make all these wonderful plans about meeting in Cabo and all this sort of stuff, right? Yeah. But in reality, you're stepping away from your little nest of comfort of people that you ate with, you worked out with, you played on the sports field with, studied with, traveled with, and now you step off and you're going to go work for General Dynamics as an engineer, completely separated from all those guys that you were with. So now you're all alone. And that brings us back to the advantage you get with Next is Best. Because with Next is Best, you aren't stepping out alone. There's people in Next is Best who are going through the same thing as you. They may be a few days in front of you. They may be a few days behind you or years or whatever it is, but they're going through the same thing. And one thing I learned a long time ago in the Army, and we said it tongue in cheek, but it's so true, is misery loves company. Now, yes, sir. You're not miserable when you're going through Next is Best. That's not what I mean. But the principle of that is if we're on the journey together, we're creating that tribe, and we're working together as a tribe to help all of us succeed as you're going through Next is Best. And that's what's happening.
This episode of the Cam and Otis Show is brought to you by Evergood Adventure Wines.
Our loyal listeners know Evergood's founder, Matthew Hexter, and our good friend from his appearances on the show that have never disappointed. And Evergood Adventure Wines doesn't disappoint either.
No, it doesn't. Evergood is a craft winery from Colorado that makes wine from lemons, not grapes.
That's right. Picture this, adult lemonade.
Oh yeah, perfect for your next backyard barbecue or hanging out with friends at the beach or the pool. No need to drink a warm red grape wine when it's 100 degrees out or much hotter here in Tucson. Evergood over ice is the perfect refreshment for a hot summer day.
And they come in a variety of flavors, including lemon, strawberry, lime, my favorite for margaritas, grapefruit, and watermelon, which comes in a cool pouch, by the way. These non-carbonated wines check all the boxes. Gluten-free, vegan, low sugar, and low in sulfites. Best of all, they taste damn good, and they have fun names, too.
Yeah, like their OG lemon wine called Skierpy. Yeah, y'all heard that one right, Skierpy. And I'll tell you, Skierpy is also one of my favorites.
Evergood now ships to 41 states, so you can order your lemon wines online at evergoodadventurewines.com.
Plus, Matthew is being kind enough to offer 20% off for all of our listeners. Just use promo code CAM-OTIS at checkout to get 20% off and start enjoying these amazing lemon wines.
So y'all go to evergoodadventurewines.com. Evergoodadventurewines.com. That's a mouthful, folks. I'm going to say it the third time. Evergoodadventurewines.com. Or click the link in the description in the show. Click Buy Now to redeem your Cam and Otis Show exclusive discount.
Yeah. And I think, you're not going to be miserable going through Next is Best. You might have a day or two there because it is some hard work, because it takes some serious reflection, looking at yourself in the mirror. And so that could be difficult. But again, when you have people around you, it makes it so much easier. And I think that's really the power of the tribe to help you while you're pursuing that purpose. And I think that there's one other thing I'd like to add on that when you start, while we're talking about, you can't do it alone, the people around you, moving on from your team and losing those connections, those kind of things. I think a lot of people, when they reach this point, they get to, let's say you understand your purpose and you know what you want to do in your life. Like I mentioned my buddy Amir wanted to be a dentist. What a lot of people do at that point is they then say, okay, this life is done. I'm going to go here. Dad, you talked about, you did this with the Army. Army's done. No more Army. Okay, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to wear green anymore, all that kind of stuff. And so you start moving forward and you try to cut out all those things. And that's not the answer either. You don't want to just entirely cut things out because those are still a part of your life. That's why I think it's such an important piece as you move forward is to have some connection back to your sport, because you did give so much of your life to that sport. Not everyone's going to be coaching like I wound up doing, but you can have another way of giving back to it and spending that time with it, rather than it being some open sore that you want to ignore and pretend it doesn't exist, pretend those friends don't exist, pretend those memories don't exist. Because really, that's just wasteful. It is still a part of your life. You want to leverage that moving forward, not just have it be something that you completely cut out. And I think that's a really important piece. And honestly, from that first round of Next is Best, the handful of folks that went through it, that was one of the biggest pieces that I got as positive feedback, was that approach of, when it comes to life management, you can have all of these things. It's not, I can have every little thing I want in the world. You still got to cut some stuff out. You still got to be disciplined. But it's about understanding what your passions are so you can still have passion inside of your life. I like to joke in the videos for Next is Best, you'll hear this joke. So spoiler for people who signed up for Next is Best, but I think of passion as like seasoning your food when you're cooking. I love cooking. If you just do salt and pepper every night, it's not very fun. You got to get some paprika in there, some red pepper, some green chili powder, whatever it is, you got to spice it up. That's what passion is for your life. You got to add that spice to it to make it fun. You don't want to just cut those things out. When it comes to whether it's passion, friends, all those different things, a lot of people get to the point where they're like, okay, this doesn't contribute perfectly to where I'm going, therefore I need to cut it out entirely. Well, that's a boring life. That is a flavorless steak, to take that analogy there. And I think that's one of the biggest things that people get out of Next is Best, is understanding that you can have those different things, understanding how those different life categories, those passions, those skills, your wants, your aspirations, all those different things come together to create who you are. I think too often when people graduate college, it's like this, okay, You're in the real world, I got to do my top button and put the tie on or something like that, and cut out all these things. It's like, no, it's still you. You're still you. You got the real world job. You're working the 9 to 5, whatever that is. But you are still you. Those passions are still you. Those friends are still you. All those kind of things. It's not about cutting out everything. It's about understanding them, understanding what you want to get out of them, understanding how they're all connected so you can manage your life as a whole.
Yeah. Well, sorry. I always laugh because we always say 9 to 5. Damn, I never had a 9 to 5 job. That would be, I wouldn't know what to do with all the extra time I had during the day because, yeah. But seriously, back to your point about, losing your identity. That was one of my lessons when I got out of the Army and I went into these different companies, and I didn't realize what was happening in my head at the time, what was going on in this conflict, but it was the fact that I didn't fit in. And I didn't assimilate well into the culture for various reasons, from who I am, my background, to what my values are, and my values not aligning with the organization's values. But at the time, I didn't understand what was going on. I just knew that something wasn't right. And that struggle put me, for me, it put me on a path that I always refer to as wandering the job desert, because working for 5 different companies, doing side gigs and all that sort of stuff. In 7 years, it was a lot of life lessons in that, in understanding that, and coming to the understanding of, here's what's going on and here's why it's not a right fit for me. And that's why I do what I do now with Tribe and Purpose. And I do the corporate leadership development and help people get that clarity in their purpose and understand that a tribe is so important to having that success. So it is that shift in your mind that you have to understand, because if you just take that job, without a plan, without a path, all you're doing is going through the motions in life. Whereas when you were playing in a sport, what were you striving? You were striving for the championship every time. You had something to focus towards. When you don't have that and you just take that job and go through life, you're going to feel a void.
Yeah, and I think that's the really interesting thing. And you said this about as poetically as most people probably would, but it's just something ain't right. Like that's the feeling that you get when you go through this, when you don't have that solid foundation, is that just something isn't right. And you can keep moving with that. Like we were talking in the green room. I was on a podcast yesterday. I used the analogy of talking about, dealing with the damage that's been done to you, whether, mental, physical, whatever it is. If your ankle is hurting and you never take time to address it, you're just like, hey, something ain't right. Well, 5-6 years down the line, you're going to need ankle surgery because you didn't take care of the problem that's there. And that's what happens with these, to put it broadly, very scientific terms here, but these mental problems that come up, the loss of identity and those kind of things. Loss of identity isn't an obvious thing. It's this kind of hole that you feel, but you're still going through your life. You still have all this other stuff going on. So you don't take the time to really think about the fact that you feel that something isn't right. And I think that's the really important piece there, is it is a very subtle thing. And that's why I think Next is Best is so important, is because those subtle things, those nagging injuries, they take a long time before they get back. They take a very long time before they get back. And that's not what you want to do with your life. You don't want to graduate college, go to a job, get married, have a wife, go 10 years down the line and be like, oh my God, I'm not happy. Like that's the exact opposite of what you want to do. So you need to understand those things ahead of time so you can understand what you actually want to get out of it. And I think, we've kind of touched on all of these different areas, but the last area of Next is Best, the third unit, is your game plan. You talked about when you have a sport and you're working towards something. You have a coach that's telling you what to do. You have a strength and conditioning coach who's telling you what kind of workouts to do. You have players around you who are pushing you to work harder, to work on your skills for whatever your sport is. You have that support system that's always telling you what to do and how to do it and how to push yourself. That's not happening in life. I've heard stories, Dad, that there's a few bosses out there who are really good, who will help you get some stuff like that when you start a new job, and they'll try to help you. But that's their definition of success. That is their vision for what you're doing. what you really need to do is take that time to understand what your personal definition of success is. Not just the white picket fence, which I think that cliche might have died off a little bit. I haven't seen a white picket fence in a while. Maybe it's just because I'm in Arizona. But it's not just the white picket fence. It's not somebody else's definition. Married with 1 dog, 1 cat, 2.5 kids, whatever it is, right? Whatever that average is for the U.S. It's not that. It's your definition of success. And that could be all sorts of different things. You have to take the time to talk to yourself, have that really deep reflection to understand what it is that I really want to get out of my life. To take a personal example, after I was done playing rugby, I wanted to play for the USA Eagles. So naturally, I remember talking with you about this. Well, I was going to coach the Eagles. Now I'm not sure I want to coach the Eagles because I just doesn't scratch that itch the right way. It doesn't fill my passion that right. I'd rather develop rugby inside of the country than at the very top level, build it up from the grassroots. That's where I found my passion was that I would like to pursue. And when you have that definition of success for yourself, you can find your own path. And then once you understand that, you can make that game plan. It's like, okay, what am I going to do every single day to get better? We talk about, take a rugby example, the gunslingers. If your pass isn't good in rugby, you should do gunslingers every single day for 15 to 30 minutes. And if you do that, you will get a great pass. It works like that. If I said this earlier, if you want to be spiritually in line, if you want to be mindful, well, then you need to start reading some philosophy books, right? Pick up Daily Stoic, pick up Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, blanking on my Persian philosopher from the Farajis, Rumi. Read Rumi. All these different people that have these insights for you. If you want to reach that point, you have to start chipping away at it now. But if you don't have the definition of what that success looks like, then you don't know how to work towards it. And that's what this last unit inside of Next is Best is. I call it your game plan for success. We're using sports terms, right? But it's about understanding what it is that you want to get and then making that plan to go get it. And I'd like to point out this is, I'd say it's a rugby game plan because it's flexible, right? It's all going to be flexible. Life's going to get in the way, but you have to have something to move off of. So you can start that movement forward and then adjust as you're moving.
Yeah, that's something I've always said about planning. The most important part of the plan is that you have a plan, because you have to have a plan to adjust off of. You can never just adjust off of nothing. Your randomness. And then the other thing that a plan gives you is if you adjust and you go in that direction and you find out, holy shit, that was wrong. Guess what? You've got a known point to return to. We used to do that in land navigation all the time. You'd have a known point that was relatively easy to find, maybe creek intersection.
I'm picturing a slightly taller tree than the rest of the trees.
Yeah. Good luck with that one. I tried that one. But no, like a creek intersection where 2 creeks come together, or even a bridge or road intersection or something like that, where you have a known point that you can go back to and go, okay, here's where I am. Now let's go to where I want to go. And I think that's a key piece of having that plan. And when I think about this, this was a good show in the refreshing our memories of what's important. And I'll emphasize that how important it is to have a tribe, to have a group of people, and then be willing to ask for help. One thing I've told folks over the years that they go, oh well, I don't know, I shouldn't bother them, it's not that important. And when I throw back at them is, me personally, the last thing I want to know about is some Bubba, some veteran, soon to be veteran, who's taking the uniform off and has a question and he's struggling with something. And he says, it's not that important. I don't want to bother Otis. That ain't right. Give me a call, because that's what I do. That's my passion. That's what I like doing, is helping those people understand that. So that's my reminder of what I learned is how important your tribe is. And the reason you have a tribe is so that you can, when you need help, you have questions, you want clarity in something, then you can ask your tribe. Camden, what'd you learn?
Really, I think this is something that I think I intuitively knew, but I hadn't really spelled it out like that. When we were talking about doing your best, and that yes, your goal should be to do your best in whatever it is that you are doing right now, but your goal should also be to constantly be improving that best. How can I get better? And like we said, it's like game fitness inside of rugby. You're always going to be dead tired after a game of rugby because that's the sport. Right, you're never going to reach that point where I'm so fit that I'm not tired after a game. Because when you are that fit, you hit a couple extra rucks, you make a couple extra tackles, you work harder. Same thing goes inside of life, inside of business. You keep improving your best, your performance keeps going up. Right, that bar just keeps raising. And so I really love that philosophy of just continuing to improve your best.
Awesome. Where do folks find out more about Next is Best, sign up for it, and start figuring out how to live their life with purpose?
Yeah, so, well, first, if you've subscribed to the Cam and Otis Show, which you should have done if you're at this point of the show, you should have done that at the beginning. You'll see some videos popping up there. I'm putting out a lot of videos talking about what Next is Best is, what these different steps are that I take you through to help you to build that foundation to move forward to that next chapter of your life. But besides that, the best thing you could do is go to findyourpurpose.coach/nextisbest. On there, I talk a little bit more about the program. Then you can schedule a free coaching call with me, just 15 minutes long. We'll talk a little bit about where you are, where you want to go in our vision analysis, analyze that vision of yours a little bit. And then we'll see if you're a good fit for Next is Best. And if we're a good fit for you, and if we can do that, then we'll get you started and help you to start managing your life, understanding your purpose. And then we can make that game plan for success so you can go make it all happen.
Awesome. Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank you all for listening to today's episode of the Cam and Otis Show. Remember, you can watch full episodes of the show on YouTube at the Cam and Otis Show. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to share it with other lifelong learners in your tribe so they can enjoy it too. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, the full archive of episodes available at www.camandotisshow.com. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next time.